After recruiting the pirates, Gamion and his team returned to Lorimar Fortress. A man stood amongst the dugout graves. His name is Kirke. His face is pale, with sharp, angular features and a perpetually somber expression. His eyes shadowed and distant, hinting at the weight of his former deeds. He was an executioner, and he would join the Liberation Army after talking to Gamion. The 3 locations in the Lorimar region were marked on the world map provided by Templeton. Gamion would lead his team to visit all 3 locations. First, to the far west, was Qlon Temple. The group then traveled to the southern part of the region to find Neclord's castle. Finally, the group returned to the village nearest to Lorimar Fortress, the Warriors' Village. At the village, Gamion witnessed a small commotion between a young couple. The young man, a lanky warrior with short, brown hair neatly cropped, and a boyish face with wide, earnest eyes that reflect a possible sense of naivety and determination. Clad in a lightweight tunic and trousers, paired with sturdy boots, his name would later be known as Hicks. The young woman had a bold and spirited presence. She has long, flowing orange hair, styled with a headband, which framed a lively and determined face. Her eyes are bright and expressive, reflecting her strong-willed nature. She would later be known as Tengaar. Tengaar seemed to want to go somewhere, but Hicks was trying her not to go. Just as Gamion was trying to make sense of what is happening, an old warrior who had lost his left eye said, "Tengaar, I told you not to leave the house. Why must you always misbehave? Who knows when Neclord will show up?" Victor seemed to be particularly triggered by the name Neclord. After knowing that Gamion is the leader of the Liberation Army, the old warrior, who would later be known as Zorak, invited Gamion and his team to his house to explain the situation. As Gamion pushed open the heavy wooden door of Zorak's house in the warrior's village, a gust of cool air carried the scent of wood smoke and aged leather into the dimly lit interior. The chief's home, though modest, held an air of quiet authority, its walls steeped in the traditions of a people forged by battle and honor. Zorak explained that about 3 months ago, Neclord arrived here as the region's new general. He unleashed a spell that transformed the Imperial soldiers into zombies and skeletons. Neclord then used his undead army to threaten nearby villages to send their women to his castle. And Neclord demanded Tengaar to be delivered to his castle from this village. After listening to the long history of the warriors' village, Gamion and team could finally get some rest. Outside their room, Hicks was having a chat with Cleo. "What did you want to talk about?" "I think I have done enough listening today," Cleo said. "Cleo, why is it you fight when you are a woman?" "Here in the warriors' village, women don't fight." Hicks asked, "Why do I fight?" "Well, I don't see why women shouldn't. Just like men, we have things we want to protect. Isn't there something you want to protect?" Cleo replied, "Me? Yeah, but I am weak." Hicks said with a sense of self-doubt, "You are right. There is no need for the weak to force themselves to fight. If you get killed, it is all over anyway." Cleo said. Hicks clearly had a problem with his self-confidence. Perhaps he needed someone to give him a boost. That night, Victor could not sleep, and he shared more about Neclord and his past. Neclord is not human, and he used a rune to become a vampire. Victor's village was a victim to Neclord's evil deeds, and the entire village was murdered. Victor vowed to hunt down Neclord and kill him with his own hands. The next morning, commotion could be heard outside the house. "Good morning, everyone," Neclord, the vampire said. His presence was a study in gothic dread, a figure both regal and malevolent. His short, jet-black hair gleamed with an eerie luster, combed neatly, yet framing a face that was all sharp angles and cruel intent. His tan skin, unnaturally smooth, bore the waxy pallor of the undead, and his glowing red eyes, piercing and predatory, glinted with a hunger that sent a shiver through Gamion's squad. Neclord was there to take Tengaar back to his castle, and he seemed determined to do so. "Be gone, or witness the full might of the warriors' village." Zorak roared as he led a charge towards Neclord with a few other villagers. However, their attack was futile as the vampire's moon rune protected him. Victor watched by the side, but he could not hold his anger anymore. "Damn you, Neclord! You are mine now. Prepare to die." Victor shouted as he leaped into a fight with Neclord. The rest of the squad joined, giving Victor support. Gamion, staff clenched, led Victor, Valeria, Kirke, Cleo, and Kai, their resolve fierce. Neclord's cruel smirk widened, as if their defiance was a morning's entertainment. Victor charged, his greatsword slashing in a gleaming arc. But Neclord's form blurred into mist, reappearing steps away with a mocking chuckle. Valeria struck with her falcon rune, but Neclord sidestepped with eerie grace, his crimson-lined cape untouched. Kirke loosed a flurry of arrows, but Neclord's casual gesture sent him spiraling into the dirt. Cleo's fire rune erupted, flame roaring across the platform. But Neclord glided through the blaze unscathed, his tan skin unmarred. Kai's staff whirled in a flurry of precise strikes, aiming for the vampire's heart. But Neclord danced away, his movements a taunting blur. Neclord struck back with terrifying precision dark energy claws felled Victor, crashing him into the fence. Valeria staggered under a chilling mist, her sword clattering. Kirke crumpled, his spectral force overwhelmed him, arrows spent. Cleo's flames faltered as she fell, and Kai collapsed under a wave of dark power. Gamion, last to stand, swung desperately, but Neclord's final blast, a surge of vampiric energy, sent him sprawling, with the vampire's voice echoing. "Pathetic. You're no challenge." The squad lay broken across the square, defeated but spared by Neclord's whims. It seems my reputation precedes me. How bothersome, Neclord chuckled. Well then, satisfied? Now please, hand over the girl. I will bestow upon her the honor of becoming my 70th bride. Neclord added. After the fight, Hicks tried to protect Tengaar, but Tengaar stepped forward instead. If I go with you, do you promise not to harm the others in the village? Tengaar said. Of course. I am a man of my word, Neclord replied. That day, Tengaar saved the village. She had faith that Hicks would come to her rescue. Hours passed and Gamian's squad finally came around. The team tasted defeat and knew that Neclord, with the protection of his rune, could not be harmed by ordinary weapons. A special weapon capable of defeating vampires? I have never heard of. Wait, hold on. Perhaps there. The team asked Zorak whether he knew of any potential weapons that could be used to defeat Neclord. Zorak recommended the team to seek help from the nearby Qlon temple. The team would make their way to Qlon Temple, but before that, they saw Marco outside. Marco would join the Liberation Army after Gamian won 5,000 pots from him. At the warriors' village, another blacksmith could be recruited. Moose would join the Liberation Army after he saw Moss, Mies, and Mose had all already joined. Moose would be able to upgrade weapons to level 15 at Ramian Castle after he joined. After recruiting Marcos and Moose, Gamion reorganized his squad and made his way to Qlon Temple. The temple nestled in Antai's heart, glowed under the sun, its sandstone walls etched with ancient runes. A bridge leading to a serene courtyard. Inside, wooden halls echoed with chants, their vaulted ceilings adorned with faded murals of celestial battles. Flickering braziers cast golden light on intricate mosaics, whispering of the temple's sacred past, a haven of wisdom amid the Scarlet Moon Empire's turmoil. Within stood a monk, his presence radiating calm. His weathered face, framed by a bald scalp, bore the lines of countless meditations, with deep-set eyes that shimmered with quiet wisdom. A faint smile, gentle yet knowing, curved his lips, hinting at an unshakable faith in destiny's weave. The monk, who would later be known as Fukien, shared his knowledge about the 108 stars of destiny. 108 people who were born under their specific stars were destined to gather under. Gamion's lead in Gamion was born under the chief star of heaven. He also knew that the squad was there to search for a way to defeat Neclord. Fukien then guided the group to a cave behind the temple. This is the cave of the past. What you seek lies within, Fukien said calmly. Commander Gamion, much awaits you within this cave. You must be ready to accept it all. Please enter, and be sure to tread carefully, Fukien added as he opened the cave's entrance. Before venturing into the cave, there were a couple of recruits for Gamion to meet. Zen, a farmer, stood outside the cave, and he would join the Liberation Army after Gamion handed him the red, blue, and yellow flower seeds. Then, inside the Qlon Temple, Morgan could be recruited after Gamion spoke to him. Finally, at the Kobold village, Rubi could be recruited after Kirke talked to her twice. The cave of the past loomed, its jagged mouth a portal to forgotten ages, exhaling a damp, earthy chill that prickled Gamian's skin. Torchlight flickered in his hand as he led his squad Kirke, Victor, Cleo, Kai, and Valerian to the yawning darkness, his staff tapping the uneven stone floor. The air grew heavy, thick with the must of ancient secrets and the faint wail of unseen winds. The cave's walls, slick with moss and etched with faded runes, pulsed with an eerie, otherworldly energy, as if time itself lingered in the shadows. Kirke, his elven senses sharp, nocked an arrow, his green cloak blending with the dim glow of luminescent fungi clinging to the stalactites above. Victor, greatsword slung across his back, cracked his knuckles, his grizzled face set in a scowl as he scanned the gloom. Cleo's fire rune glowed faintly at her wrist, casting fleeting warmth against the cavern's chill, while Kai, staff in hand, moved with silent precision, his eyes narrowed. Valeria, her air sword rune humming, gripped her blade, her stance poised for battle. Gamian tightened his grip on his staff, the Soul Eater rune's pulse, a steady rhythm against his palm, urging him deeper. The tunnel widened into a vast chamber, its floor littered with shattered pottery and bones. A piercing shriek split the air as banshees materialized ethereal, skeletal figures with glowing eyes and tattered, ghostly shrouds. Their wails clawed at the squad's minds, sowing dread. Gamian swung his staff, the Soul Eater's dark tendrils lashing out, but the banshees darted through the shadows, their forms flickering. Cleo unleashed a torrent of fire, singeing one banshee shroud, but it shrieked and reformed, undeterred. Kirke loosed a volley of sylph-enchanted arrows, pinning a banshee to the wall, its form dissolving in a wisp of smoke, but more emerged, their cries deafening. Victor roared, charging into the fray, his greatsword cleaving through a banshee's misty form, dispersing it momentarily. Valeria's falcon rune scattered the banshees, but their relentless wails drained the squad's focus. Kai spun his staff, striking with precise force, dispersing another banshee, while Gamian's Soul Eater tendrils coiled around a third, banishing it into the void. The squad fought in sync, their breaths ragged, but the banshees' numbers seemed endless, their spectral forms reforming with maddening persistence. As the last banshee faded, the ground trembled and heavy footsteps echoed. From the chamber's depths emerged clay dolls, hulking golems of cracked, reddish clay, their featureless faces glowing with rune-carved eyes. Each stood twice Victor's height, their fists like boulders. One swung at Cleo, who dove aside, her fire rune blasting a fiery bolt that scorched the golem's chest but barely slowed it. Victor met another head-on, his greatsword chipping clay but rebounding with a jarring clang. Valeria's wind slashes carved grooves into a golem's arm, yet it pressed forward, unyielding. Kirke aimed for the head, his arrow striking true, causing one golem to stagger, cracks spiderwebbing across its form. Kai leaped, his staff cracking against a golem's head, shattering a chunk of clay, while Gamian's staff struck with Soul Eater-fueled force, toppling another as its runes dimmed. The squad's teamwork wore the golems down, their clay forms crumbling into lifeless heaps, but the effort left them gasping, sweat mingling with the cave's damp air. Deeper they pressed, the cave narrowing into a twisting passage where the runes glowed brighter, whispering of trials yet to come. Gamian's staff tapped the stone, his squad close behind, their faces etched with determination. The cave of the past had tested their strength, its monsters relentless, but the Liberation Army's resolve burned fiercer. Whatever secrets awaited, relics of history or clues to Neclord's defeat, they would face them together, unyielding in their quest to defeat Neclord and free Tengaar. The team eventually reached the end of the cave, and a sword could be seen magically floating above a pedestal, its presence both radiant and foreboding. The blade shimmered with a silvery blue hue, etched with faint, glowing runes that pulsed like distant stars. The hilt, wrapped in black leather and capped with a crimson gem, seemed to hum with sentience. A curse upon those who disturb my slumber. The sword suddenly awoke and said. Then, a magical glow erupted, and the squad was suddenly transported to an unfamiliar land. This marks the end of the episode. If you have enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.